we're live. So doubt and confidence in real estate and how often we're balancing between those two things. Today, I'm Mike Bernier, and we've got Jesse Zagorsky here, who's got a great story and a lot of good conversation we're going to have about this topic. So Jesse, what's up, man?
What's up, dude? This is going to be fun.
It will be. So, so often we get in these conversations, well, you and I will be talking and, we just kind of get in these conversations and we always end up on some sort of philosophical journey in these conversations. So
by philosophical, I mean like ridiculously deep, where like everyone else has left the bar. You and I are sitting there till like 2 a.m. talking, like just staring lovingly into each other's eyes, and everyone's like, "Where'd everyone go?" Right?
I think that's about it. But sometimes it happens at noon, sometimes at 2 a.m.
It could be noon. It could be 11 o'clock, right? What time are you in your time zone? You're like 1 o'clock now?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So, we kind of break into these deep conversations. And, the fact is you posted something on Lab Coats not that long ago. You and I have had a few conversations about this. I really am passionate about this subject of confidence, doubt, and how this balances in real estate and how it affects us in real estate. You've got a really interesting story from earlier this year. I'd love to have you talk to the audience about it. And,
sure.
And just sort of, I know you're a really vulnerable guy. You're open. You just kind of let it all hang out there. So, we appreciate you being on. I think a lot of people are going to find value from this.
Yeah, absolutely. And in case people don't know me, so I run a team in San Diego. I've been a team leader for 15 years. We've done, $1 million GCI plus for many years. And I'm not saying this to like pat myself on the back. I'm saying I've been on stages talking about real estate. And when I tell you the year I've had, it just puts it in context that like, look, it doesn't matter if you're just starting out or you've been a veteran for 15 years with a decent, like a big team. There's still going to be ups and downs in this industry. And it's one of those things that just, it's hard to peel back the curtain and know what you're really hearing is real unless you have people talk like this and just be vulnerable and open. So here's my story. Let's see, it's taken back to November, about a year ago. My team grew. We were 14 people and we jumped up to 21 people. Big jump, upped our lead spend. We were like getting ready to rock and roll. And I was like, this is going to be our year. We're going to go big and it's going to be amazing, right? And then January came and I didn't know it was possible. But did you know that 21 agents could sell 0 houses?
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah, and it really sucks if you're the team leader. So I lost about $40,000 in January of this year. And like I'm used to making money, and I've had some up and down moments where like this was like a smack in the face. And I'm not faulting the agents on the team. Like the market shifted, the agents, like everything at once. But I take personal responsibility for me as the team leader that something had happened. So then I'm like, okay, it's going to get better. February's going to be better. We're building momentum. They're building the pipeline. And then February hit. And we literally lost $20,000. So I'm now negative $60,000.
Now, Jesse, this is real money too. This is not, paper. This is not like a loss on paper. This is hard money.
No, this is real money. Like I didn't pay myself a salary and then lose money. Like I literally, like if you look at my bank account, it was $60,000 less in the end of February than it was at the beginning of the year. Okay, so that's the framework. So some people watching right now are already thinking, oh, you're really screwed. Like, and go ahead.
So, think about what that means for a second. You're getting up every day, you're putting in the work, you're leading your team, and none of the efforts that you are doing are producing the result that you're looking for. In fact, you're going negative every single day. Think about the mindset of what that can create.
Oh, dude, it was, I literally went from November last year, mindset of like, I'm lit up. We went from 14 to 21 people on our team. We're all excited. The team's got good energy. And even in January, the team still had decent energy. I was starting to freak out mentally. I had a 6-month-old baby at the time and a 3.5-year-old, and the team's losing money. And some of the agents on the team were starting to get a little stressed because that means they weren't closing deals either, right? But January, they started to sell a few houses. But as a team leader, I mean, no, my mindset was just, it crumbled.
And how much fear did that really instill in you when you're looking at results not happening and you're thinking at some point, you're a smart guy. You had to be thinking, how long can this go on before it's absolute, 9/11 day, like bombs are falling?
Well, I calculated it. So I am a smart guy and I'm very analytical. So luckily I do have some investment properties and I have some passive income and I have some savings. And so I calculated it. And I actually could have kept going for a few years, believe it or not. But it didn't matter because in my mind, I was literally 3 steps away from having to, moving my family somewhere else, my wife and kids leaving me, every one of my agents quitting, me ending up on a gutter, and I'm dead alone. Like literally, it was like 3 steps to like, I'm here, I lost money, I'm dying alone.
And depending on your mindset, you can look at one one instance or one occurrence, and you can either think, hey, this is going to go really well. You can think about it with optimism, or you can think about it with, this is going to be the worst thing ever. And I have to believe that since in this January, February time, you're thinking, no matter what I try, it's just not going to work. This is just a derailed train. How do you dig yourself out of that hole?
Dude, so it was really interesting because I felt really stuck. You're totally right. My mindset did shift, and the state that I was in, like who I was being in that moment, I'd lost the confidence. This is where like the title of the webinar came from, about hope and confidence. I'd lost hope in the future, and I'd lost a feeling that tomorrow would be better than today. I just assumed it was going to be this slow winding my way down until literally all the agents were either quit or fired. And I felt guilty. Like, look, as a team leader, like I felt guilty. I brought these agents onto the team and they weren't making money, right? I was like, what am I doing wrong? What else could I do? I also felt frustrated as a team leader. Like, why are they not closing deals? Like, what's going on? And the agents were feeling frustrated and feeling the same emotions. So how do I get myself out of it? So March was free fall. Like March, I just was like, I don't know what to do. By April, I said, I'm going to put myself back in production. I'm going to go be a real estate agent. It did not matter if it was a $200,000 buyer, which for San Diego is low end of the market, right? For some areas that I know it's in Minnesota, right? Where 200,000 is okay. In San Diego, 200,000 is pretty low. So I didn't, like literally $200,000 condo buyer or a $2 million home buyer. I didn't care. Listings buyers, if it was a client, I was just going to put you in my car. I was going to go make money. And I still wasn't focused on let's make money, because I know commission breath is like the opposite of what I needed. I just knew go connect deeply with clients, just one foot in front of the other. And from April till August, I was really pretty depressed. Like realistically, without getting too into the dark side of it, but I was really down. But I somehow managed to, just out of sheer habit, like get myself up, have a morning routine we can talk about. I'd do some exercise and I would go through my day and I would want to sit parts of the day and just do this.
Okay, well, hold on to that thought for a second, Jesse.
Yeah.
So what you're talking about is you had to put yourself through a regimen every day, whether you wanted to or not. And I have to believe that there had to be some level of burnout when you're putting, this effort in, you're not seeing the result, but you got to get up every day and put the work in. Now, this isn't excited work. This isn't like, hey, my life is going great. Things are just amazing. I'm going to be hiring 4 more agents this week. And I've got another, 14 deals going under contract. This is, I am trying to survive another day, and how did that play in? I mean, did you feel excited to get up in the morning?
No, I was never excited to get up. It sucks because think about it as a real estate agent, like so we've been talking as a team leader, but let's put it back in the context of just a solo agent. Because I'm a solo agent. I'm not a team leader. I have my team, but I'm back working as a solo agent. The things you do today are directly responsible for the money you make 6 months from now. Mm-hmm. Like this is even maybe 3 months at best, but usually most coaches say, like you're a coach, Mike, right? Like what you do today is directly responsible for your income 6 months from now. So I'm looking at this going like, I know this is what I need to do, but my self-doubt and my lack of confidence kept saying, am I really as good as I think I am? Am I like, I've been a sales trainer for years. I know how to sell. I know how to connect with people. But I kept thinking, is this really going to work? Do I really know what I'm doing? Am I just deluding myself? Am I a fake? Am I a fraud? All the natural things that pop into your head.
Well, of course. And then, let's be honest, you already built something pretty big and amazing before you had this problem. Then you fall into the problem. Do you really feel like, oh, I just want to go build again? I mean, you already built and it fell apart in your mind for those few months, right?
Yeah.
So here you are again with the, I got to go build. And it's probably not quite as enthusiastic as it was the first time. And you brought up a really good statement about, solo agents or newer agents, or even just being a one-man, one-woman show. I watch agents struggle with this all the time. They're balancing, being a single parent, or they're balancing, a family life, or they're balancing something else, and yet they've got to go and do all this on their own. And you told a story to me recently about Halloween, and I thought about this guy after you said it, and I'm like, oh my God, I know so many people that have been there. But when you're doing everything on your own and how so much is on your shoulders, and what you end up sacrificing in those moments to try to make your dreams come true. So do me a favor and let's talk about that Halloween guy.
Okay, dude, this is heartbreaking because I have kids, but even if you don't have kids, I think this will still resonate with people because there's something in your life that everyone's been here. I'm walking down the center of my town. I live in a place called Encinitas, cute little downtown area, and there's a real estate office right in the center of downtown. So I have my 1-year-old, my 4-year-old, we're all dressed up in costume, and everyone in town walks up and down the main drag, like getting candy from the stops. I'm walking up and down, And we walk past the real estate office, and there's a gentleman standing in front of it with a clipboard, a normal chair, and he's passing out candy to people. And I overhear as I'm walking past, he's talking to someone who's probably a friend of his. And he says this, he looks at him and he goes, I think I made the wrong decision. And I just kind of, I stopped, I paused for a minute. I was just curious, like, what is he talking about? And he said, I keep getting pictures from my wife, and I really think I should have been with my daughter and my kids on Halloween right now. Like, I think this was the wrong decision to be here. And the person who asked him, I think it probably asked him a normal question like, hey, you having fun? And got this very vulnerable, transparent response. And it was like, it's heartbreaking, right? Because you've been there, right, Mike?
Yes, and it draws me back to another story I read about in a book here of an agent that had their first child. And I think it was one of the first times they were feeding the child. I think it was just like baby food. And he was just about to put the spoon in the baby's mouth for the first time, and the phone rang. Picks the phone up, and here's a buyer saying, I got to go look at this house right now. And he's like, look, man, I'm just sitting there with my kid. I'm about to feed my kid. And he said, either come now or I'm finding a new agent. And he had to make that choice. Like, do I continue on like in this moment that I can never get back again? Or do I go and provide for my family? And I think you're a Halloween guy in sort of the same context. Like, you're just out there trying to make it happen, and you're sacrificing so much for this industry for people, and many times that will walk away from you, abandon you, or reject you on a dime. Now, do you find it in the agents you coach or the agents you mentor and work with in your team, do you have those discussions? Do you see that problem in them? Do you see that rejection in them?
All the time. I see it in myself. I see it in them. I see it in everybody. And it depends on the moment. It depends how confident you are. If you have 15 clients and you get a call like that, you go, you know what? I'm about to feed my baby food for the first time. Like, this is a first in our life. I'll probably be there, and I could be there maybe in an hour if you want, if that's cool. Otherwise, you're more than welcome to call someone else. You have the ability to say a conversation like that when you have 15 more clients. And if you want to write this down, because if you only have one client, that's the only chance you have to get a paycheck and put food on your table, you're going to be a lot more attached. So if you're writing this down, if you want an actionable takeaway, write this down. Be attached to the process, detached from the outcome. Attached to the process, detached from the outcome. And that's why having a lot of clients helps, because you're a big pipeline. You're not attached, right? It's why when it came to this prospecting, my day-to-day, what I was doing, I became attached to my 2 hours of prospecting a day, not the results, not what was happening, because in 2 hours of prospecting, you may not book a ton of appointments. Some days you do, some days you don't. You may not be able to see from the outside that you're actually advancing your career forward, but if you're attached to the smallest possible step to move your business forward, which is, I'm going to prospect today. I'm going to prospect for 2 hours. Or maybe it's just, I'm going to get my butt out of bed. And maybe that's a good step for you. Be attached to that. That's what I mean by process, detached from whatever's actually happening.
So, perhaps maybe a process then is really, we always talk about it in the industry, but we don't always define it well. The difference between working on your business and in your business, right? And a lot of times we focus primarily in a linear fashion over closing the 1 or 2 or 3 buyers that we have. It's almost a sequential linear process. And when we close them, we got our paycheck. Now what? Now we got to start all over again, right? And we have this thing. We all know what this means in real estate, right? With our income, because we're so hyper-focused on servicing those clients, we forget to really work on the processes that brought the client in the first place. So, we talked earlier about some of your stuff that you were recommending in terms of a morning routine. Maybe some things that you can do to work on your business when you get to work. So what would you say to those that have that problem, where they've got 1 or 2 buyers or 1 seller, and they're subject to the slavery they feel they have to that, because if they lose it, they lose their next month and a half of the income? What's your answer to that?
So the question is, how do you get rid of your attachment to the outcome?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, what processes do you focus on? Number 1, so you can build that pipeline. Yep. And number 2, where do you start? You mentioned a morning routine. I think that's really important. I like this conversation.
Okay, so here's the processes. Here's the morning routine, and I'm actually going to give you a 3rd bonus point, right? Which was, because in order to do any of this, you said the thing that caught my attention was, how do you let go of that attachment if you only have 1 client? How do you let go of the attachment? And the difference is, when you're feeling depressed, it's an inward focus. And keep in mind, guys, I am not a mental health professional. Okay. I'm married to a therapist, but I am not one. So take it with a grain of salt. But depression is an inward focus. You're focused on yourself. If you turn outwards instead, right? And focus on your client's needs. It's not about you closing a deal. It's not about you getting a paycheck. It's about, how do I find the right house for my client? How do I sell the house for my client? If you focus on them, that's the best way to let go of your attachment to actually closing a deal. Just focus on their needs. All right, now back to, does that make sense though, Mike?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so just back to morning routine. You said morning routine and the habits that you create. Which one do you want to do first?
Let's do morning routine if you could, because I think it starts there.
Yeah, so morning routine. This one, I got to give credit to a guy that I saw years and years ago. He's actually a doctor for preventative medicine in Del Mar, near where I grew up. And he's the one who taught me this morning routine. So this is my morning routine, but it doesn't matter what it is. It's just the fact that I have a routine. So it's a habit. I don't think about it. I just do the same thing every day, no matter how I'm feeling. Some mornings I'm lit up and excited. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. And some mornings I'm like, this blows, which is probably what I felt like. I know it's what I felt like from January, February, up until August. It was 8 months of like, but I still did it anyway. So I get up in the morning, first thing in the morning. And when I was feeling depressed, I flipped the order, because usually when I'm awake, I like to meditate first and then exercise. But if you're feeling down, I highly recommend you don't meditate or pray immediately, because you'll probably go right back to sleep.
Right.
Let's be honest. If you're like, I can barely want to get to bed, I'm going to meditate.
So the exercise is what gets your endorphins going, so the rest comes, is what you're saying.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you really are having trouble getting out of bed because you're like, dude, I hate exercise. I personally have a really strong positive association with exercise. I don't know if it's just come from years of doing it or whatever it is. So this is not preaching or harping on anyone. It's my personal thing. If you don't have a positive association, you might need to use a different initial first step, which is like, brush your teeth. I think that's from Miracle Morning, right? Mm-hmm. Get out of bed and brush your teeth first thing. Drink a glass of water and brush your teeth. Almost any human being can handle that. It's very low barrier. For me, I get excited to exercise. I used to do triathlons and I just like working out. So I used to be a spin instructor. I get excited to go exercise most days. Once I work out, that changes the physiology of my body. Like you said, the biochemicals, everything, my endorphins are going. Then I get in a positive frame of mind. I listen to loud music. I'm rocking out to whatever it is. And then I can go sit down and meditate and get grounded. From there, I do hydrotherapy. So if you live near an ocean, you can go jump in the ocean. For Michigan or Minnesota, sorry, I don't recommend jumping in.
You don't want to do that, no.
No, that would be gnarly. So you go in the shower and you go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot. You ever do that?
No.
Okay. You put water right here. If you want to get really nitty gritty for the analyticals out there, you put water right here on, in Eastern religion, they call that your third eye. From Western, there's actually a part of your brain that's up here anyway, in the back. That's your medulla oblongata. You put cold water there, cold water there. You go hot, cold, hot, cold, hot.
Nice.
As cold as you can stand.
So what's the reason for that?
It triggers, from Western school of thought, cold water basically triggers a physiological reaction in your body, and your brain, which makes you feel alive, and literally tells your body like, you're freezing, get alive. Right. And from a Eastern school of thought, it's the medulla oblongata is actually the entrance of spiritual energy in the brain. Gotcha. So by putting hot, cold water on there, you're activating that, if they call it chi, right? Your chi flow, all these things you've heard, which whether you tend to lead to the Western side or the Eastern school of thought, it's hard to deny there's something in our bodies that causes us to have more energy some days and less in others.
So let's think about this practically. If you don't have some sort of routine to shake yourself loose in the morning, think about 365 days a year, going to the office or going to your home office, figuring out over the next couple hours what you're going to do that day, waiting to feel like you want to do something that day. And what usually transpires at that point is very little, if anything. Right. But, another thing I like to add to a routine personally for me is I like to clean out all my workspace and have my task list built the night before. So I don't have to come down in the morning and try to figure this out first thing when I don't really want to do it. Right. I just want to sit and plug and play. Yeah. So, if I'm going to do exercise in the morning, get all ramped up to go, I don't want to then stop and go, what am I going to do today? I like it spelled out.
Totally. I am the exact, you and I are very similar like that. I've recently learned that skill, and it's amazing. Actually looking at your schedule and planning the night before or the week before.
Yeah. And, for me personally, I'm the type that I would rather, one thing that I see a lot with agents is the burnout factor. They don't want to keep doing things they don't want to do. They're not having success with. They're trying to balance, the work life, family, the whole bit. You got a buyer dragging you around, seller trying to negotiate every fee with you. And it's like, I'm burning out on this.
Right.
One thing that really helps for me is I like to get the things I don't want to do out of the way the first thing in the morning. Like, you know, if I've got to do prospecting and I don't want to do prospecting, I'm going to do that first. So the rest of the day is clear sailing.
So here's a simple rule for those people writing down takeaways, right? Get your pen, write this down. No client appointments before noon.
Mm-hmm.
Do you teach that one?
Yes, absolutely. You know, when we really get into deep time blocking, and I think some of it can really overwhelm people, but I think you start with separating your day into two parts. Before noon and afternoon. I think it all starts there. You can get much more granular from there.
But let's keep it really high level. It's such a simple, like, because you and I are very granular people. For some people watching, they're like, dude, I don't get time blocking. As soon as you talk about calendar, I'm out, man. But at a very simple level, if you don't schedule a client appointment before noon, it creates this vacuum of time in your day. And you could waste it. You can play on Facebook and watch cat videos for 6 hours. I'm sure it's possible.
Have you been following me? How do you know what my day's like?
I just guessed. You're
cat riding a vacuum.
Cats with unicorn horns. Yeah. Where are we going? Oh, I know. So, but here's the deal. Like, if you just then create the habit, like you said, Mike, where I don't love prospecting. I don't love it. I don't. And we actually are renaming prospecting in our office and soon to go live. Probably we can do it online here, right? We're renaming prospecting and we're going to call it Connect with Clients, Make Money.
Nice.
Connect with clients. Nice. Prospecting is not cool. No one likes prospecting, right? But CWCMM, Connect with Clients, Make Money. It's kind of fun.
So another takeaway, in case we didn't catch that, is separate your day by two segments. You can call it working on your business, working in your business. You can call it don't take client appointments till afternoon, but draw a line through your day. And these are the acceptable activities on this side of it. These are the acceptable activities on that side of it. That one little shift will compound your earnings by exponential amounts.
But let's just ask a thing that people watching this are saying in their head, Mike. Let's just be real about it. They're like, but dude, I've only got one client and that one client wants to see $1 million property at 10 o'clock in the morning. You're telling me I'm really supposed to tell them no?
Right. So this, here's the thing. So is it going to work every single time? Maybe, maybe not, right? You're probably looking at a 80% success rate. But if you're looking at getting 80% of your time back to invest in working on your business and those processes, what is that going to do for your pipeline? Let's be frank. The reason people have confidence issues in real estate, there's more than one, but one big one is because they don't have the pipeline. They feel like they got to hold on so tight, and they're going to put themselves in bad situations. They're going to put themselves with people that kick them around and reject them and, make them feel less valuable as a person. And I'm going to continue on with that relationship because I need your money. That's not a good feeling.
Dude,
so
we could do a whole webinar based on the bad situations we're in when we were attached to the process.
Oh, big time. But if we had, if I walked into that listing,
attached to the outcome. Sorry, attached to the outcome. Go ahead.
Right. If I walked into that listing presentation and I met with you and you told me, Mike, I really want to work with you, but I'm only paying you 4%, take it or leave it. And you're my only prospect for that month. Chances are I'm going to take that. I don't care what my broker says. I need the money. Okay. Now, if I came and I had 27 other people in my pipeline, 14 other, listings I've got live right now, buyers under contract, I'm probably going to say to you, Jesse, I respect your wants and needs there, but I'm out if we're not doing 6%. And I'm not going to care.
Dude, you are so spot on. Like you are. And it's back to that. I think you have to know yourself. I think you have to know where your stress level is. So if you look at if anyone wants to Google without getting too all psychology, sociology, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Which is your pyramid. You've got at the bottom your basic, food, shelter, and at the top you've got contribution and significance and all the things in between. So you got to know where you're at in that pyramid, and it's not linear. It's not like you just climb all the way up and then you're there. You go back and forth. And so if you're super stressed out and you're just in full-on catastrophe breakdown mode and burnout is really heavy, well, then you're going to do different techniques than you would if you're like, all right, I'm a little down or I'm a little burnt out, but I'm not massive. You might do different things at that time.
1,000% agree. And I think the further you sink emotionally and you get to some of the lowest level emotions of things like despair and grief and sorrow and, utter, my life is a catastrophe and I've got no self-value. Let's be honest, this industry can create that. We're judged constantly and put value on us constantly. We have this saying that when you get in real estate, fake it till you make it. You always have to look successful. We're never supposed to look vulnerable. we're never supposed to look like we've got problems. We're supposed to look like we, have made it already. We're all successful. But the reality is, most of us under that pressure, we've got problems. We crack. Nothing's a bowl of cherries. I mean, you just talked about your story where you built something amazing. Then you turn around and you're like, oh my God, I'm 60 grand in the hole and nothing I'm doing is working. So imagine that.
But here's the key. When you're going to tell that story, so we got sidetracked, as we usually do, go down the rabbit hole. I'll finish the end of that story, which is from April till August, I worked my butt off, not excited about it, not even like knowing what I was doing, just head down, doing what I need to do, one foot in front of the other. By August, we were closing enough deals, both myself and the team, that I was cash flow positive. Like we actually we started 60 grand in the hole, ended up making money for the year. And I think by the time I put that big long post online about it, which actually was I think it was in the Club Wealth group, I put the really long post. At the time I had $110,000 of pending GCI, like net to me, which was pretty good from starting the year at negative 60,000.
Right.
So it's, as you tell these stories, vulnerability is really attractive. Like being transparent and honest. And I'm not saying go to your clients and be like, yo, I don't know how to sell a house. I am terrible. like don't do that. Right. But like, if you can be vulnerable and then talk about how you solved it, people can spell BS. I think that in our society, especially in real estate, it's gotten to the point where distrust in our industry is high enough. And with social media, people can tell if you're fake. Just be real. If you're real, as long as you don't want to complain online. You don't want to say, I'm losing all this money. If you're going to share your story, share it obviously with the happy ending. I waited till I had a happy ending to share it. Plus I didn't want to share it when I was super depressed.
Right.
Go ahead.
I think you're right. And I think the vulnerability piece is big. I think we also have to stop being so hard on ourselves in the industry. We keep judging ourselves by what other people in the industry are doing. Look at Jesse. He's killing it right now, and he's doing big things. And we get this competitive thing going in the industry, which I think can be very damaging. I always like to think about being, coming from contribution, not competition. Right. And I remember when, I've known you for a few years, and I remember the first couple times, when I got in here, my backstory, we don't have to get into that too much today for the whole audience, but
we can get into it. We've got 16 hours for this podcast.
That's true. But I started as a solo agent, ended up being a very successful solo agent, doing 70 plus transactions a year, top half of 1% in my state. I burnt out to the point because I had no help and I wouldn't give up control. Nobody could do it as good as me. So eventually I burnt out and said, I want to do something different. But
pause right there. I gotta ask, because now that we're talking about burnout, there's a few different types of burnout. What did the burnout look like for you? Were you depressed? Were you angry? Like, what did it feel like at the moment?
My burnout was 100% sacrificing all the other areas of my life. Right. Yeah. So I always look at it as multiple pillars in your life that you need to take care of at one time, not just one. So business-wise, business development, I was killing it. But, friends and family, mental health, physical health, all down the tube, sacrifice for the business, right?
And I want to know the rest of the story, but let's look at that period of time. Can you tell in hindsight what caused you to sacrifice all those other things? Because I know how I put it into words. I'm curious how you put it into words.
1,000% I know why. Because in my mind, I had what I call at the time bad intentions. I wanted to prove to everybody that doubted me from many years ago. I was really proving it to myself, but I was really proving it to them at the same time, right? So my intentions were, I'm going to show you what I'm made of. Right. And that driving force made me make a lot of probably really bad decisions at the time. And
you made a lot of money too, but you also made some bad decisions, right?
I did. Because if I was smart, I would have started leveraging and I would have started recognizing that I need to bring people in, I need to outsource, I need to insource, I need to start bringing in some help. But no, I'm Johnny, what's his name? The dude that raced the machine, the dude, laying the railroad track against the machine. Yep. That's how I was. Right. So I wanted to conquer it all myself. My burnout happened because everything in my life was falling apart around me, but I would not let go of the business. I was so hyper-focused on that success. Yeah. Now I look at that now and I'm kind of going, if I blew up one car tire and the rest were flat, I'm going to drive in circles. Right. And that's the way my life was.
Right.
So I guess my point is back to kind of my backstory. I got out of production because I wanted to avoid the burnout. But I went into real estate brokerage, which I thought would be easier work or less work. They should have told me the reality of that one. I work just as much as I always do, but I don't have the same I don't have the same perception of my work. I love what I do. I'm not burning out. I work a lot. I love the people I work with. So I think burnout is also going to come down to your perception of what you do and the pressure you put on yourself. Back to where I was going with this. When I first met you, I was probably a couple years into my brokerage career. But as a broker, we started doing things like hosting office meetings. I had to start speaking to people publicly. My first couple times doing that, I'm like, oh man, I really suck at this, And then you end up doing maybe a class with Club Wealth. We host like a breakout or something, or a mastermind. I'm like, man, I really suck at this. Yeah. And it started, now we're on these bigger stages. We're doing things in front of 300, 400, 500 people, webinars in front of thousands of people. And what I realized over time is it isn't about how good I am on stage or as a speaker, because the worst thing I ever did was I stood up on stage in front of like 300 people and read notes off my phone because I had no presentation at all whatsoever. And I'm like, I so suck at this. But then about a month later, someone came forward and they're like, here's all the notes I took from your presentation. And it dawned on me, it isn't about how good I am. It's about, does my message resonate with one person? Can I reach one person or 10 or 100 or 1,000? It's not about being competitive and thinking, oh, Jesse's better at this than I am. My mentality, my mindset on this is, can I help somebody when they need it? Is there somebody I can reach? And I think we have to do that as agents as well. It isn't about being the biggest agent or the biggest team or having your face on every billboard. It's really about, can I help one person at a time, come from contribution and actually make an impact? That's, for me, is what switched.
It's perfect. And that's what you said, come from contribution. It's a service mindset. And if anyone's listening who does have their face on billboards, I'm okay with putting your face on billboards if the intention behind it is, how do I impact people in a massive way? How do I make their lives better, right? We are, in every company I do, I have a few different things I do. I'm a real estate broker, other tech companies. it's people first, profit second. When I worked individually with agents, one-on-one, when I was a buyer's agent or a listing agent, when I was an ISA, when I'm like, literally, I've done every role in a real estate office. I've been an independent broker for 14 years, right? Like, my focus is always, how do I make the other person happy? How do I focus on their needs? That's what gets you out of your own head. But when you're depressed, you're looking the other way. So I'm with you, man.
Yeah, you have to, because, look at it this way too, because, we keep measuring ourselves against others when we should be thinking about, how do I help my person better? How do I get better at my job? The only one you're really competing against is you at the end of the day.
And but here's one thing I will say. You're not going to stop comparing yourself to others. It's a natural human thing depending on how you're wired. So don't make yourself wrong when you do it. Like, you're going to be competitive. Don't make yourself wrong because of it. And you're going to feel depressed. And don't think, Jesse said, don't feel depressed. No, it's okay if you're depressed. Like, just own it and then figure out, how do I shift past it as quick as possible? That's the real key. It's not don't feel your feelings. You're going to feel down. You're going to feel it. But that's my opinion. I don't know if you agree, Mike, but like, how do I, once I recognize that I'm being someone different than I need to be to create the success I want, how do I shift that as quickly as possible? Not how do I ignore my feelings?
Right. And I should draw some little clarity around what I'm trying to say. So, obviously you look at other people as inspiration, but when you are directly trying to compete and be better, like, I need to be best, and that so-and-so's better at this than I am. And I think we put so much pressure on agents thinking of it that way, and really it comes down to, how do I get better tomorrow than I am today? How do I get 1 degree better tomorrow than I am today? That should really be the focus, I believe.
I'm trying to find something really quickly as a screen share. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Do you remember the picture of Michael Phelps? Here we go. I found it. All right. Let me see if I can share my screen. Oops. There we go. This one, share screen. All right. Can you see my screen share?
Yep.
Okay. Have you seen this picture before?
Yep.
This picture is incredible. This picture is incredible. So Michael Phelps, one of the best swimmers of all time, gold medal, like multiple gold medals. And do you know who the dude is in the green cap? It says it down there, but ignore it. Did you know who the guy was before you read it?
No.
Because no one knows, because it doesn't matter. Like, literally, he's some second place person. And look where Michael Phelps is focused on. He's literally focused straight on the finish line. And where's the dude focused on?
His competition. Yep.
That's it. Right. And so back to mindset, I love that visual where, and this is a quote that, my wife makes fun of me because she's like, it's not about stupid quotes, but they just resonate in my mind, that winners focus on winning and the losers focus on the winners. Right. That's a little kind of a glossy, it's much deeper than obviously, but the depth is just focus on the micro commitments, the small steps you need to make to to get you there. Phelps didn't get in the pool and just start swimming. Every day he swam a lot.
Well, okay, back to you know what you talked about with commitments. One of the reasons I hate the word goals is that goals are so lofty. They're like, this year I'm going to sell 100 homes. Okay, that's great, but what does that translate to? Actionable items every single day, little tiny things you do. When you went to school, you know, and you got an algebra book, you didn't learn algebra all at once. You did this over the course of a year, chapter by chapter, piece by piece, test by test, and at the end of the year, you knew algebra, right? So, but we stopped.
Well, you knew algebra. I still don't know algebra.
Yeah, right. But probably not you. Yeah, you're like advanced trigonometry. What are you talking about?
Oh no, I meant 2 + 3 is I can do 6% of anything or 3% of anything, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
But my point is you know, we kind of got off or away from what we learned when we were young, how to focus on one thing at a time. You know, time block, if you want to call it. You know, you weren't focused on you know, English when you're doing math class. You're not focused on science when you're in history. You focus for that focus time. You take it piece by piece, day by day, and at the end of the year, you know it, right? But in real estate, we don't do that. We get up in the morning and go, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to wait for some inspiration to hit me. I have no routine. Oh, a buyer just called. I've only got one, so I'm just going to run out the door and go service that buyer. You know, everything we learned as we were young, preparing for this, we throw out. And I have to think it's got to be sort of a scarcity mindset, right? I mean, people are worried that if I don't service this buyer, then I'm going to end up losing the opportunity, and like it's D-Day, I'm done, right? So
100%, dude. I've asked audience. So I told you I've been a sales trainer for years. I've asked audiences from like 2 people up to like hundreds of people. What percentage of sales do you think is mental, and which percentage is skills? Guess where the percentage usually ends up in an audience? I have people put up their hands, they drop their, you know, people. What percentage? What percentage is mindset?
So what I believe, or what I think they think.
What you believe and what you think audience believes.
I believe the vast majority, it's all mindset. That's what I believe. Yep.
Yep. So most audiences believe between 80 and 90% mindset, some even 90 and 100. Like, and we spend all of our time focused on skills, but yet like the skills do boost your confidence, and the skills help you be like, my mantra is, how do I help agents make more money in less time while having fun? Make more money in less time while having fun. And to do that, you do have to have skills. But what it's really doing, I think, is not just telling you what to say, it's changing who you are being in the moment, because when you know what to say, you feel confident. Like if you walked into a listing appointment, and granted, guys, bear with me, I have a 4-year-old boy, and you said, I'm gonna list your house and we're gonna poop, sign here. You might take that listing if you were super confident. Like they would look at you like, what? You're like, yeah, I'm that good. I can say whatever I want and you're still gonna hire me. Right? The words you say don't matter. It's the feeling you create in someone, and it's the confidence that you are being. That's what draws clients to you.
1,000%. So for those agents that think they don't run a team, I always say to them, well, you really do. You're the team leader for the buyer, the seller, the lender, the title escrow officer. Like you have to think of in terms of leading people to some degree. You know, and that means that if you can't lead yourself, or you're not confident in what you're saying, are they really going to follow? It comes down to that. But back to mindset, I believe it's pretty much 1,000% mindset. And I remember back from my days of being a competitive boxer, I would go into the gym and you'd see these guys that come in. Like, let's say 2 people walk in the door at the same time, they're brand new. One guy had just a ton of natural potential and talent. The other guy comes in, no talent whatsoever, but he's got work ethic.
Right.
And what would happen is the talent guy would win every single time, right up until a certain point that the dude putting the work ethic in, he actually grows beyond the talent. Yeah. It happens pretty quickly, to be honest with you.
Oh, it's interesting.
And so it's really not about how skilled you are, because you can learn skill, but you can't necessarily learn mindset. I mean, you can learn mindset, don't get me wrong, but it has to be there. It has to start with mindset, then you can learn the skill. And, I always go back to the difference between a growth and a fixed mindset. And, if you really study that one concept, this is an actionable takeaway. If you study one concept, start with this one, I believe, because in a fixed mindset, your talents you have today, your intelligence, your skill set, it's all fixed. It's who you are, and there's no growth. Like that's just your anchor. That's where you are. You will measure that every single day. Like, well, I'm not smart enough for this. I'm not going to be able to do it. You will try something once or twice, and if it doesn't work, you'll stop. How many agents do you know had an open house one time that nobody ever bought that house, or nobody ever turned it into one of their buyers? So they're like, open houses don't work. Lead sucked.
Dude, It's worse than that. How many agents you know did open houses, got clients, sold houses, and still stopped doing it?
Yeah, because they still don't believe it, right?
Yeah.
So in a growth mindset, it's the opposite. It's like, that didn't work, but why? How can I fix it? They see an obstacle. They won't just, hit the obstacle and quit. They'll go over it, around it, through it, under it, right? In a growth mindset, it's about the process, not the ending. Yep. Again, being married to the process, not the result. So if I keep getting better at the process, the results will keep getting better.
That's
so
it.
The growth versus fixed mindset, if you've not read that work, that's a really good actionable takeaway to start with. It really is.
Is it a book?
Burnout, in my opinion, what burnout always comes down to is, it's not that you're busy. I'm super busy. Running multiple companies, I'm busy. But I was way burnt out as a solo agent doing 70 transactions a year. I do way more work now. I got way more responsibility now, but it's the way that I position it and the way I don't pressure myself, and I'm not married to every single outcome.
Right. It's totally. And so I wanted to make sure before we run out of time, I want to talk about superpowers.
Yeah.
But something you just said in terms of growth mindset, if you're not growing, you're dying.
Correct.
I mean, it's literally that simple. And so you just got to pick a team, right? And there's no such thing as status quo in life. Like, you can look at anything. Nothing ever stays the same. They're either growing or they're dying. It's just human. It's just not human. It's just nature. So pick a team, right?
Right. So, not every shark does this, but I always like to think of sharks, right? And a lot of sharks, if they stop swimming, they die.
Yeah.
You continue moving or you die, and growth doesn't have to mean, building companies of 1,000 agents or a team of, 10,000 transactions. What it really means is you got to keep improving, growing.
Role play.
Things. What's that?
Role play. Do something new.
Exactly.
Learn a new script. Read a book. It doesn't even have to be in real estate. You can expand your mind in something else. It doesn't have to be most growth probably comes outside of the world of real estate. If you've been in real estate for more than 2 years, there probably isn't much more you need to learn.
Right.
I mean, there might be something.
It'll probably translate into real estate. It's an ecosystem, the way you live your life, right? I mean, from your mindset to your business development, to family status and structure, I should say, to, physical health, to mental health. It's all an ecosystem. And if you work on one piece, it all benefits.
Well, that's another actionable takeaway. The way I say this, and I got it from, this is not my phrase, but this is what it sticks in my mind, is the way you are in one thing is the way you are in everything. Mm-hmm. That's your ecosystem, same concept, right? The way you are in one thing is the way you are in everything. Oh, I got a train right on track, right on time. I got a train coming. All right, you keep talking for a minute.
Beautiful. Okay, so anyway, Jesse, you wanted to talk a little bit about superpower. So when I lead into that, what I wanted to preface it is with this. So often, I think in real estate, part of the burnout or the lack of confidence, the doubt, is going to come from not truly understanding yourself, your value, letting others dictate your narrative, not you. When others tell you that I'm only going to pay you 4% and take it or leave it, and I got 5 others, in front of you, we can start to feel like we've got, limited value. Or when a buyer you've been working with is like, you know what, I just, met somebody in open house or on Zillow, I'm just going to go. I don't really need you anymore. We start depleting our value. Internally, I believe we do this. And we start getting sour on the industry. I think those that do really well in the industry are very good with people. It's a people business. So connecting with people is important. But I think to really do well with people, you also have to know really who you are, what your superpower is, and what those people value in you. And it might be different than you think. Right. You might think this is what I'm really good at, but it might be completely different what they value.
Dude, so we'll do this in 2 steps. Here's the actionable takeaway, right? If you're watching this, I want you to grab a pen, get a piece of paper. If you're driving, just keep driving, right? But if you're assuming people are sitting still watching this thing, and write down, what is your superpower? Literally write it out. My superpower is blank, 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 blank. I'll give you an example. So I wrote down when I did this exercise, and then we'll give you part 2 in a second. So the first part is, what is your superpower? I wrote down, I'm creative, charismatic, disciplined, and persistent, parentheses, bordering on obsessive. Because I am. I'm persistent to the point of probably obsessive sometimes. And I think obsession is a good word, right? Mm-hmm. I'm creative, charismatic, disciplined, and persistent, bordering on obsessive, right? Do you have a way to answer it, Mike? How would you describe your superpower?
So for me, I'm probably driven. I've probably got 3 or 4 different ones. I would say driven, relentless, compassionate, and what's the other one that I always like to go to? Those would be probably my top 3. Because between being driven and compassionate, for me, I'm always sort of the one that, people will go to rely on to help solve the problem, if that makes sense.
Yep. You're a problem solver, dude. And here's part 2 of the exercise, right? So there's a book, and you're going to tell me which book this came from because we were talking about this offline. Is it The Code? The
Culture Code. Yep.
Culture Code. So in the book, The Culture Code, Mike and his partner Long are the ones who taught me this. I didn't know it came from Culture Code. I attribute it to Realty Group. So whatever, you guys get credit. Every human being wants.
I need it.
What? There you go. Every human being wants three things. They want to feel safe, they want to feel connected, and they want to share vision or share a shared future. Feel safe, feel connected, share vision. So the second part is actually going to play to both those. It's going to help you feel safe and help you feel connected. Once you write down what your own superpower is, go to your clients, go to your friends, go to someone you're doing a webinar with and say, hey, Mike, what do you think my superpower is?
And I think that's important.
No, I'm asking you. Like,
yeah. No, I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer, but I think it's important that you ask because honestly, we might think we know our superpower, but the way others see us is that's what really matters. Like we have to know what they value and what they see in us. So for me, I see your superpower as being all the things that you've mentioned, but I would also add that you attract people. You're an influencer that attracts people. So I don't think you really mentioned that, but people feel really comfortable confiding in you, talking to you in ways that I've seen grown men in tears with you at a bar. Not me. I haven't been the one in tears, but I know you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But but the point is you can't discount that superpower either, that connectivity.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. Thank you. And by the way, as he's saying this, it is I'll just be transparent. It is really weird to hear someone give you a genuine compliment like that. Mm-hmm. Like I like hearing it. It makes me feel good. It's also like, ooh, interesting. Like that's a whole separate webinar, probably trying to get used to your own comfortable with your own, you're powerful beyond your own belief. Most people are. So for you, Mike, watch how it feels. I'm going to give you a compliment. I'm going to tell you what your superpower is. So I believe that one of your superpowers is you're an incredibly systematic guy. You see the system as a whole and you're able to spot opportunity and create solutions that no one else sees. You see the entire picture and you can lay out strategies to get someone from point A to point B in the most efficient way possible while creating an amazing experience. That's not an easy thing to do.
So yeah, I wanted to crawl under the desk there for a minute, but I know what you're saying now. Yeah.
Right? But it's genuine. Like that's how I see you, but it's weird to hear it. And so as you guys go to do the second part of the experiment, I wanted to just let you know, if it's uncomfortable to hear what people say, you can do it via text, you can do it via phone, but if you can just be okay with just like when someone gives you a compliment, what do? You just smile and say, thank you. Cool.
And look, I'd like to give a final takeaway for this too, because I think this is hugely important. If we're talking about doubt and we're talking about, burnout, we're talking about the negative side of the business, the word alignment. I can't tell you how important this was for me in my career as a producing agent. If you would have told me that, go knock expires all day, that's the only way you're going to be successful, I would have failed out of the business in a month and a half. I found my alignment and how I connected with people and what I needed to make that happen. I did super good with my own sphere of influence. So I had referrals. I was a referral agent, and I did super good on incoming leads. So as long as it was somebody that was making the inquiry, I would respond to that inquiry, and I was converting at a super high level. But if you would have told me just go do outbound dials and call people, I would have failed instantly. So, the reason I talk about alignment, or I brought this up, when you're talking with like me and Jesse are, and I'm saying, hey, Jesse, let me tell you about you. Now, Jesse may not even understand what his superpower is. He might think it is, but he may be out of alignment with, by the way, his customer sees him, right? So one of the takeaways I would say is get in alignment. Ask people, if they're doing reviews for you, and they should be, all your clients should be giving you reviews, and you should be able to share that. But really ask them why they liked working with you. For my own honest feedback, Jesse, I would really like to know, working with me as a seller, what values you see, tell me about that experience. I just want to be able to share that. And based on what they say, it might be completely different than the way you expect it to be. I think that's vastly important.
I love it. I love it. And I think we're probably coming up on, are we coming up on wrapping this up? I think
so. I think we're getting there. Yep. Because
I've got one thing I do just want to say as a disclaimer. And if you want to think about any last thoughts you want to share, if you've been watching this and you do see some parallels in your own life to my year, you might not have lost 60,000, but maybe you're feeling a little down for whatever reason. Maybe it's just a little bit, or maybe you are massively just feeling maybe you're feeling depressed. Know that you're not alone. Like really, like if you are someplace where you can reach out to a friend, a family support, just start talking to people. And if sometimes when you're feeling depressed, it's like, I didn't want to talk to anyone. I isolated. Most people, when they're depressed, isolate. I got off Facebook. I got off everything. If you know someone in your life who seems like they're a little down, reach out to them. Like you be the one to reach out to them and just check in and see how they're doing.
And don't be afraid to talk to others, because you don't have to fake it all the time. You really don't. So just to kind of wrap up some of the conversation we had, to really help with the burnout and the lack of confidence. A, build your business and pipeline. That's going to help your confidence. B, be in alignment with your customers and the way that you source your business so you don't feel like there's a misalignment there. C, recognize that routines such as a morning routine and getting your stuff ready for the night before, some of those routines, those systems, as we call them, those things really work. D, do not be married to the outcome. Make sure you're not married to the outcome. Things will not work out. People will abandon you. Come from contribution. It's about them. If they leave, it isn't about you. It's about them, and there'll be others. Come from abundance, right? And then C, understand that that the growth versus fixed mindset will help get you there. So in a way, that's kind of how I packaged all that. Anything you want to add before we go?
No, that's beautiful, dude. Like that is, if you watch the whole thing, I'm sorry, you could have just listened to the last 2 minutes and gotten all of it. That was perfect, dude.
All right. Well, I think we're good to go.
All right. Well then, guys, enjoy your day. Mike, thanks, dude. This is super fun.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.
All right. Bye, guys.